Howdy folks, Helcorix here, and welcome to Thoughts from the Inner Sphere, episode 31. Hard to believe it's been 31 episodes. That means it's been, 31 weeks or so, give or take a couple days. Now, today we're going to be talking about the Crusader, the 65-ton, the CRD-3R Crusader. Now, that 65-ton mech is an interesting mech. It's kind of like, once again, it falls under the old jack-of-all-trades type mechs, where you expect it to do multiple roles and kind of succeeds in everything, but not really great at it. And you're going to find out why. Now, let's just look at it. Now, the Crusader is a 460 mech, has no jump jets, and has 10 heat sinks. Comes with 192 points of armor, which, that's not too bad. That's almost maxed out. Then we have weaponry. Carries 2 LRM-15s. That's pretty dang decent. LRM-15s are nothing to sneeze at, but it only carries 2 tons of ammo, so 1 ton for each rack. Carries 2 SRM-6s in the legs, 1 in each leg, with 1 ton of ammo. 2 machine guns with 1 ton of ammo. And 2 medium lasers in the arms, 1 each. Now, what do I think of the mech? It has a tendency to find its way into about every game we play. Just the fact that when you want to run the standard version and you're running into, let's say, vehicles or infantry, this mech is kind of handy because you get all kinds of motive hits because you're throwing out all kinds of SRMs and LRMs, and you have a better chance of getting motive hits on a vehicle. Now, infantry, with the machine guns and the SRMs and the LRMs, you have a tendency to do a little bit more damage to infantry, which is a pretty decent thing. It keeps them at bay, makes them think twice. It's a lot different when you have nothing but a energy mech, and a total energy mech has a hard time with infantry. Vehicles not a big problem because you're still hitting with doing the damage. Now, how do I use this mech? Typically, you have to look at the circumstances just kind of dictate what you're going to do. So it can fall into the fire support role, and it's kind of you think of it like an archer in that role, but an archer can do it longer. Fire support role, just because it has a little bit more ammo. It's like just flip over here to the archer, and the archer carries 2 tons of ammo, so each one of those bays can go 12 turns, while this one can only do it for 8. And that, and then obviously the archer's carrying around LRM-20s. But when you can sit there and fire for 8 turns, and you're doing fire support, people have a tendency to push them back a little bit, because if you're getting rained down on from all these LRMs, especially say you have another archer in the group, or Thunderbolt, and something that, or a Griffin, and you're running down range or throwing down range all kinds of LRMs, a target can disappear pretty quick, especially if it's like a vehicle, or you just turn that vehicle into a pillbox as you take out its tracks, and it just sits there. Now, one thing this mech does good, when you get into close range, it will be able to fire those SRMs and those 2 medium lasers and those machine guns. The machine guns don't have any heat problems per se, because they don't cause heat for the vehicle. But now, this is where we're going to start seeing the problem. It only has 10 heat sinks. And you're typically, when you look at how much heat these like the SRMs will put out and the medium lasers, you're going to be running into a heat problem. You're going to be going up 4 to 6 per turn if you fire all the short range stuff. And you just can't do that. You know, any mech, you do that 2 turns in a row and you're slowed down. You do it 4 or 3 turns in a row. Next thing you know, it's like you're starting to worry about. It's like, am I getting close to cooking off that ammo chance or shutting down? You know, it's just things you got to look at. And there's some ways to mitigate that. Is, you know, you either fire, let's say, 1 medium laser and the 2 SRMs, you know, and the machine guns, you know, that type of deal. And even, you know, when you're firing at fire support, if you move, you're causing heat. You know, with the two, you fire those 2 LRM-15s, you're right there. You're already maxed out your reduction of heat with your heat sinks. And if you walk, you go up a little bit. You run, you're going to go up a little bit more. But I always think, is like, if I'm running, am I going to be wanting to fire my LRMs? Because I got short amount of salvos out of that. Would I want to run and fire at the same time and decrease my chance of hitting? I'm always looking at that as like pros and cons. You know, are you willing to waste that 1 salvo to get a chance? Let's say you need a 7 and you're after running, it's like, yeah, I'll probably risk that. But if I need a 9 or a 10, I'm probably not going to worry about it, because if I'm running, I'm trying to get into a better position where I can just park myself behind a hill or in some woods or something and be able to start dishing it out without having any detriment to modifiers. So, yeah. Think about it in that way. What are you going to do with that and use it? Now, let's just look at some of the variants here. Excuse me. The Crusader D, that's the Davian House version. They remove the 2 machine guns, which frees up some. That should free up roughly 2 tons, and then they put that into, and then they reduce the SRMs to 6 racks to 4 racks. That frees up 4 tons and add 4 more heat sinks. So that is not a bad deal. Have 14 heat sinks, so then you're able to fire pretty much, you know, you're not worrying about your LRM-15s causing any problems for heat. And then if you fire those, if you get into short range, you're looking at the, let's see, we're looking at 3, 6, 12. Yeah, you can still run and fire the short range stuff and not have to worry about any heat problems. That's a good option or variant. Now, something that House Carita has done, they still, they add still more, they retained the SRM6 and reduced the the 15 racks to 10 racks. Roughly, that's basically doing the same thing. Then when you drop to 10 racks, you're going to have a few more salvos coming out of that. Instead of 8, you get 12 per rack. And, you know, that's not a bad deal, but when you think about it, the 65 ton with pair of LRM-10s, you're not necessarily doing the amount of damage you used to be doing. And I'm looking at the House Davian version. I kind of like the House Davian in a way. But, you know, it's a good option, because if you're looking at getting in close and you want to get in close, you know, you have an SRM-6 instead of SRM-4, so you have potential doing a little bit more damage up close. You know, it's give and take. And then we have the House Lyo version. Let's see. Downgrades both the missile rack launchers. The Crusaders equipped with jump jets. All right. Okay, so yeah, so you're plunking that Let's see, the House Lyle version is the most radical departure. Standard vehicle in which, in addition of downgrading both missile launchers, they'll. So I'm not sure if they're downgrading the. Is that the? Yeah, that might be the. I think that's the one where they downgrade the S-arms. It doesn't necessarily say, but you get 4 jump jets, which gives you more. It gives you mobility. And if you are looking at using it for a city fighter, or if you're going into the heavy terrain, you need to displace. And I've always said, if you're able to displace your mech going from one position to another, instead of having to run around a block or around a building, you just jump over top of it. That is a good option. And I kind of like that idea in a way. And being able to change it from that, make it a 464. Now, if typically what we like to do with ours is a lot of times I just dump off those machine guns and just add 2 more heat sinks. Now, 2 more heat sinks kind of solves a lot of the heat problems with this mech, and just leave the S-arm 6s and the ALRM 15s the way they are. And that, you're limited in the amount of firepower you're going to have going downrange, for 8 turns. And if you're running, like typically, when I always say when you're running a mercenary company and you got extended range and you're not necessarily knowing how far back your supply lines go, and you're wanting more energy versus more ammo base, it can be a problem in the long run in a campaign. So, necessarily will this mech be running in the front lines as a long-range scout support or anything? A lot of times when I'm playing in the Mercs, I will run a Crusader and run it with the infantry as an infantry mech, and also run like a Vulcan or something like that, and use it for clearing out strong points for like an infantry platoon or company or something of that nature, and go in and burn them out, tear them out, wherever it may be. And then, since the infantry are not necessarily going to be out and beyond the out on the frontier doing the Cav Scout role, it kind of falls into the old adage, like if you look in World War II, where you have an infantry tank. And I think this is where I usually use this mech as more of a support role for my tanks and infantry. So, in all reality, is there much of a variant that I would do other than radically tearing this thing apart, dropping the SRM 6s in favor of some SRM 4s, dropping the machine guns, and then adding jump jets, and then maybe another ton of ammo for the launchers on the LRMs? I don't know. I be honest with you, I kind of like the just dropping maybe the machine guns and adding more heat sinks, and then just using it as an infantry support or vehicle support. That's pretty much how I use it. And if you got any questions, put them down below. Any thoughts, and bring them out. This is Hell Cricks, and we'll talk with you later.